Order by is one of SQL's keyword, and the primary function of order by is to sort the result set in ascending or descending order. Before analyzing a data set, being able to sort the data, perhaps to quickly see patterns or simply to have a clearer sense of the data, is important. Let's take a look at our current books table. Let's print out our books table. Just going to execute this. Now, when you take a look at our table, you notice that the records are not sorted in any way. And by that I mean that there's no real pattern that can be deduced when you look at the records or when you look at the records that are presented. So take a look at the year release column, for example. We have the first book listed as 2014, and then the next is 2020. And then after that, we have the book released in 2016. The same thing goes if you look at our reviews column. Our first review is 4,866. The next one is 2,382. So there's no real, and this is the same for all of the columns. Actually, with the exception of the book ID that seems to be well aligned, and that's because we've also not really, we've not deleted any record from our table, and that's why. Well, actually, let's do that. Why don't we delete a record from our books table? Let's say we choose to delete which record? Let's delete the sympathizer from our books table. So, and if it's been a while that we did that, but the first thing you want to do before you delete any record, you want to select that record first. So we want to select all from books, and now we have to use the where clause. When we could use author first name, we could use the book ID. Let's use the book ID 10, where we'd have where book underscore ID equals 10. Let's execute that. So now we have the record that we want to delete. Now we can go ahead and delete that record. So we delete from books. And we can just copy this. I mean, we can type it out as well, but when we run this, so one were affected. So now let's take a look at our books table. Now, if you remember, this was book ID 10. Now, when the book ID 9 is Trevor Noah Born a Crime, but book ID 10, because we've deleted that now, first instinct might think that by default all this number would change, but no, it won't change because those book ID are unique to each of the books. So even if we delete one book from our database, it's not going to then automatically switch or change the book ID of all of the other books. Now, if we look at our row record, the number on here indicates the total number of rows we have. So that's showing us that it's showing 21, which means we do have 21 records. But the point I was trying to make is that this book ID could also, it may or may not be consistent. Let's say we run a library, for instance, someone might come and, they could borrow the book and maybe they don't return the book. So that leaves our database. So in other words, none of our records is really sorted. And this is where order by comes to play, because with the order by keyword, we're able to sort our record either ascending or descending, and we're still able to select by column. And let's see how we do that. Let's go ahead and make a comment, and we'll call this order by. Okay. And what we'll do is we won't select all. Let's select by column. So let's select author last name from books. So we're quite familiar with this query. We've done this perhaps 100 well, maybe not up to 1,000 times, but we're familiar with this. We're good with this. Now, to order this column, all we need to do is to add the keyword order by, and then we select the column we want to order by. So order by author last name, right? So what you want to take, if you the first one we have the first author we have a Stevenson. When we run this, now we see that this is now being ordered by the last name. So now we have Achebe as the first name, and then we have Adichie, and then Kadon. So now we have like from, and this is, so by default, when we use the order by statement, by default, it orders ascending in an ascending way, which means it starts from the smallest to the largest. So in this case, it starts from A up to Z. So by default, that's the way it orders when you pass that keyword. So if we, again, if you just scroll down, we see that our last author is Zaphon, and the last name of our author, Zaphon, is the last because that is Z. And let's also order by reviews. Let's order by reviews. From books. Now we order by, order by reviews. When we run this, now we see that our reviews are ordered ascendingly. And the reason why we have null, because, null in this case would be the smallest value. And don't forget, like I said, null doesn't mean zero. It just means we don't have a value within that in that field. Okay, so let's also make some space. So why don't we select author first name, then author last name, and we can select title as well. And now let's order by from books, and then we can order by author. Let's order by author last name first, last name. Okay. Just gonna make space here. When we run this, so we see now that it starts the ordering with the last name. So again, we have Achebe and Achebe Adichie, and then Grant Cadon, Michael Crichton, Catherine Johnson, Adam Johnson, and all of that. Next, let's order by the reviews. We want to see, we want to see our author's names. So the first name and the last name. We'd like to see the title as well, and the review, and would order by the review. We can, since we're using the same thing, I'm just going to copy that. And all we need to do is just add reviews. And we will order by, instead of author's first name, let's order by reviews. All right, let's run this. So now we consider Catherine Johnson as the lowest review. And if we scroll down, George Martin, Game of Thrones, as the highest review, 12,450. And like I mentioned in the previous video, these are fictitious reviews. Well, not all of them, but I did tweak some of the numbers. Now, so far we've been ordering ascendingly. What if we want to order descendingly? So, like I said, ascending just means the smallest to the highest. So what if we, instead of having Judge Martin, and if let's say we choose to still use the same, I'll copy it, copy the same query, paste that. But now, instead of having to order a record by the lowest review, what if we want to order it this by the ICE review, and the keyword for that is descending. So all we need to do is we just add DESC, which is descending, and what that does is it now orders our book descending. So now we have the highest as the first record printed, and then we have the lowest as the last record printed. And just so that just to clarify again, just to prove that the default is ascending. So now we see how we we order our records descending. But if we, let's say what I'll do is, so the keyword for ascending is ASC, and that means ascending. And what I just want to prove is that the default order is ascending. So let's copy this and just paste it again. And I'll remove the keyword ascending that I just included. And when let's run both together. So we see that we have the same, I'm gonna bring this up. So what we see here is that we have the same ascending, and I believe, let's see, what do we have here? Its first name, title, and reviews. Yeah. So if we look at, we have the same record, because even though we added ascending to the first query and not to the second query, it still printed our records ascendingly because the default for order by is ascending. What if we want to order by available copies? So we want to see the books, the available copies of our books, and let's print out, let's say select, let's say we want author first name, and we want author last name, and we want to have the title as well, but we want to see how many copies are available. Available copies from books. Now we want to order by available copies. And let's do the same. We want to see the book that has more copies, because again, when we run it descending, it's going to give us the highest, and it's going to start from the highest. So another way to interpret this would be to say we are ordering our records based on the most available copies, based on the book or the books with the most available copies. So in this case, Jeffrey Warren's Meditation for Fidget Skeptics as the most available copy. So let's say we need to restock, then maybe we don't need to restock, Jeffrey Warren's book. Maybe what we need to do is restock those with the least available copies. So we might want to restock Katherine Johnson, The Suspect, or Brent Stevenson, whatever we choose to do. And just so you know, we can still even use our string functions when we use the order by keyword. So let's say we want to have our author's first name and author's last name in the same column. So we want to concatenate the author's first name and last name, and then have our title and our available copies. We can still do that. Let's just quickly do that. So we have select concat, and what we want is we want our author's first name, and we need a space, sorry, and we'll concatenate that with author's last name, and then we want we also want the title, and then we want available copies, and that would be from books, and we want to order by available copies, order by available copies, and there should be an L title. So when we run this, Now we have our author's first name and last name, and then we have the title, and we could either descending or ascending. Let's say descending, execute, and we can call this full name. Run this. So yeah, so just to show you that we can concatenate even when we use the order by within the query. Another way we can order or sort our records the way it's displayed is using the value of the character rather than typing the character. Now what I mean is this. So let's say let's select okay, author first name. We want author last name. Let's say we want title. We want also the let's say we want the reviews as well, and from books, and then we have order by, and let's say we want to order by the author's last name. So normally we'll just type author's last name, and that will be fine, right? If we run this. So now it's been ordered by our author's last name. But what we can do is, so each of these columns that we've indicated that we want to be printed out, they also have a value. So author's first name is 1, author's last name is 2, the title is, the value is 3, and reviews will be 4. So instead of writing author's last name, let's say we want to, let's choose to order by title. So title will be position, maybe I should call it value, position, rather position. So author's first name is as a first position, author's last name as a second position, title as the third position, and reviews as the fourth position. So let's say we want to order by the title. All we need to do is, instead of typing title, we can just type 3, which is the position of title. And this is by default, this would be ascending. So when we run this, so now we see that our record, our result set has been ordered by title, even though we didn't type our title, we just typed the position. So now we have be obsessed or be average as the first, and it just goes down in ascending. And if we want, we can just put ascending, and when we run this, now would have it in descending timeline will be the first record. Now, even though I've shown you this, because using the position is not explicit, the rule of thumb or how I typically would, write this query is to type out the character itself or the value rather than using the position. I would rather just, use the title. So instead of 3, I would just have title. But just to show you that you can do that, that's why just to show you that it is possible to use the position rather than just typing out the column name.